And now where is the base water? Because there have to be 4. Because there is God, Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. So now that we have,
there's
now
not
that we have
4.
the,
You're making a category. Hold on, you are now making a category error. This is what I was trying to prevent when you said it earlier.
And the Holy Spirit, and that's 3 of them. That's
right.
not 4.
So does the essence, right? The essence of God only exists in the persons.
Yes.
That's how God exists. But He doesn't exist without the persons, right?
They are co-equal and co-eternal. So one cannot exist without the other.
But without those persons, God
co-eternal.
Without these persons, God wouldn't exist as a thing.
But God exists though.
Yeah,
right?
That's you can't prove a negative, so that's
an
irrelevant.
if, my guy. That's an if.
You can prove a negative.
So did you agree with what I said, Drew?
Yeah, that's an if, my brother. That's an alternate universe.
Literally said you're conflating context when you say that there are 4 things, or 4 entities being spoken about in the doctrine of the Trinity.
Yeah, no, we don't believe the essence is its own entity that exists.
Okay, so
because essence is essence. Like my guy.
Okay. So
because essence is just the definition of a thing, or like the
so God
literally the what of something that exists. A tree has an essence. A rock has an essence.
Like we could be like moderate realists in the sense of. Yeah, we can be moderate realists, and the persons themselves exist as like specific subsistences. So there isn't like a 4th thing that exists, which is the essence, because the persons are going to be like identical to that essence, like they subsist as the essence. So
what does that mean?
All right, so okay.
So when you say subsist, what's that mean to say?
Subsist just means like to exist in some way. Subsist just means to like exist in some way or relate to existence in some way. That's pretty much all.
So when you say that it subsists in the essence,
just remember this.
All that's to say is that it exists in some way in the essence, right?
They exist as like the essence of God in some way. So the Father exists as God, as paternity itself. The Son exists as filiation from that paternity. So in relation to the essence, they're the exact same, but in relation to each other, they are not the same. They are different. The same way that action is going to be Aristotelianly identical to a change, but passion is not going to be identical to action. Right?
I'm not really clear on what exactly you're saying here.
Oh, so you understand who Aristotle is, first of all? Just maybe that'll just make things easier.
Yeah, I know who Aristotle is.
Okay, good. So Aristotle has these obviously like he has like the 10 categories, for example. But he also has an idea of what change is, and in Aristotle, he would say that in a given change there is the action of a change and then the passion of a change. So think of, let's say, when you punch someone.
I'm not really sure how this is relevant to the Trinity.
The idea of identity and distinction.
How is action and passion relevant to identity and distinction?
So most Latin Trinitarian theologians use the action-passion distinction to explain the distinction between Father and Son, yet their identity as the essence. So in Aquinas' Summa Theologia, he does the same thing. Now, when it comes to, when you punch someone, for example, that's going to be action. And then passion is going to be being punched by someone, so receiving act. Yet they're going to be identical to the same change that is instantiated.
I'm not really sure how that helps with these sorts of Trinity critiques.
So the Father, for example, would be identical to the essence in this case, and the Son would be identical to the essence, but the Father and Son can still be distinct.
So you're just saying you hold a like relative identity or something?
No, I still hold to a classic identity. I just don't think that transitivity would follow.
To be clear, when you say classic identity, you mean to say Leibniz law, right?
Leibniz's laws,
right?
Not sure.
Sure. So if
Leibniz's
A is identical to B, right, and B is identical to C, it seems like they're all going to have the same properties, right?
No, because in some cases, there are times where, even though it's a valid inference rule, transitivity isn't applied, which is basically what the identity of indiscernibles is trying to get at. Like, say for example, in like intentional contexts, you have like intentional operators like I believe that. That's going to mean that you can't actually use transitivity. Classic example.
So you're saying
is like
it's
the Clark
vague.
Kent Superman thing.
Yeah, you're saying it's vague,
No.
right? You're saying it's an intentional context rather than coextensional.
Sure,
he's not
but
saying that at
it's
all.
not. It's not to say. It's not saying that it's vague. It's saying that you can't use transitivity like validly. Say for example,
validly?
you have
I thought you just said that was valid.
listen, sorry, not validly. My apologies. You wouldn't use transitivity in this case. It still remains a valid inference. We just can't use it here.
So what is?
So
I'm not really clear on why
this.
this would be an intentional state rather than some
I would say
coextensional
that-
state, right?
And that's a critique that's been given. But assuming the Trinity is true in an internal critique, you would try to look for other reasons or given as to why this would not follow. For any Trinitarian, they would say that this would be purely an intentional context. So
why is
when
it
you say,
intentional?
why is it intentional?
Like, what makes you think that? Like, it seems like there's this clear reason whenever we say, I believe that Muhammad Ali is the best boxer of all time, but I don't believe that Cassius Clay is the best boxer of all time. All that's to say is that, well, you can hold one belief about the proposition and the other belief doesn't follow, right? Well, I mean, you could say it follows, but it's not the sort of thing that you would have to believe in conjunction with it, right? Well, that seems to be a clear context. Clear reasoning behind it.
I think it's a clear context because of the idea of who Muhammad Ali was. So I would say that the idea of the Trinity as a doctrine itself seems to give reason for this to be intentional. Like if you grant like the Trinity, then there's going to be certain things that you can say about those three persons in relation to each other.
So when you say the idea of Muhammad, like what is that? What are you trying to say there?
So the idea of, by idea, I just simply mean like the notion supplied by Muhammad Ali and the reality that refers to. The reality that Muhammad Ali and Cassius Clay both try to refer to are like the same. Whereas the thing that is the father in this case doesn't seem to supply the same idea. The
so
reality of
by idea you mean
of
the thing
father
applied or the notions applied?
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, I would just take the view that it's intentional, right? Because it's a belief state. I don't see why you would invoke stuff about like notions, and I'm not really clear on what you mean by that either.
Even if it's a belief state, the idea is that the thing that is going to be signified by that belief state isn't going to be the same as this thing that is also signified by this other belief state.
Right. Yeah, that's sort of the idea. But when you say notions applied, what is that supposed to mean?
Notion. I said the thing that's signified by the notion. Maybe I wasn't clear because when I said supplied, I said the thing supplied rather than like the notion supplied.
Right. So what would that be? The thing supplied by the notions.
So the thing would be like the person itself. So the idea of the father as the thing that begets the son, for instance. The son being the thing that is begotten from that same action. So I actually, funny enough, I did a stream on this not too long ago with two people, with Dr. Chris Tweet and Dr. Bo Branson. So it came out yesterday. So if you want a more clearer view, we go through it there. I can let you guys get back to whatever you're doing. I'm just doing some editing stuff. But
okay.
Yeah, if you do wanna look at that sort of thing, you can just look at the video. I think the interesting thing about intentionality, at least, or with people like Church and Frege, when they started to develop like a system for like intentional logics and things of that nature, it's pretty hard to look at sort of.
Well, maybe we should be clear here, right? So, if I'm cashing out intentional states to simply be one object that is about a different object other than itself, right? And in this case, it's a belief, and that's what gives you the vague context rather than the coextensional state. Then I'm not sure, like, what would the equivalent be for the Trinity?
I mean, I may be a bit. I mean, I think it would simply just be like similar to Aristotelian ideas of change. Like that would be sort of a similar idea for it, because the idea the
I don't know how that
you
helps.
gave was just. So the idea that I'm trying to talk about is whether you can have intentional context, for example, for states that aren't simply just belief states. So things like, it would seem that, or it is known that, like these are belief states. But what about intentionality in things that aren't simply just belief states? And so there are some that look to like any given change in a thing as an example of this.
I'm not sure how a change would have like how are you defining intentionality then?
How am I defining intentionality? I think that was the problem for at least church, for instance. We're still sort of going through that.
Well, it seems like I kind of gave a definition. It's just like directedness of one object to a different object. So a belief would be like an obvious intentional state. A proposition would be an obvious intentional state, right? Those would be.
You cut out for me. Could you repeat that again?
So I think if you remember how I defined it, like, would you agree? Would you sign off on that definition?
I didn't hear what you said. You cut out for me. That's why I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I defined it earlier.
Yeah.
I just said that an intentional state is like when you have directedness from one object to a different object, right? Other than itself. So, for instance, if I say like, I believe whatever, right? And that would be like an intentional state.
Yeah. So directedness. Sorry. Give me a second. I'm doing multiple things in a moment. Yeah, I would be okay with that for now.
So what is the intentional state for the Trinity then?
What would be the intentional state for the Trinity?
Yeah.
I would say the directedness to one of the persons, I guess.
What do you mean?
Sort of similar to here. This. Give me 1 second. I want to show an example where this sort of works.
To be clear, we may be using intentional state in two different ways. So the first way would be the one that I just laid out about directedness. The second way would be like these sorts of vague contexts where you can have, I believe that like Samuel Clemens is not the author of, I don't know what book Mark Twain wrote. And then I do believe that Mark Twain is the author of whatever book he wrote. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like you can believe both consistently.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Pardon. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So I was trying to find this paper on Spinoza, if that's okay with you. Because I don't want to give you the Summa, because that may be a bit confusing. But this is De La Rocca's paper on Spinoza. I think he wrote this in 1993. Yeah. So, for example, his idea on Spinoza's identity theory. So maybe this would be an example when this
of
is
intentionality for the Trinity.
Not intention. Well, an intentionality other than just belief states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I sent it here. For just the Trinity, I would look at Aquinas's example that he gives for action and passion here. But that presupposes Aristotelian categories of like change and so on. So that's the only thing that I would say to that. But yeah, I'll also give you a link to the stream that I did on this, because as much as I would love to have, actually no, I do not have time to at least like open up things, because I'm currently doing certain work on history right now, so hands are a bit tied. Here you go, I guess. What the heck? Oh, the link copied to the clipboard. All right, here you go. I don't know how to ping you because I I'm not really looking at chat. So, like I said, I'm doing multiple things. I just sort of copy pasted it and thought, hey, you'll probably find it. So, it's in the chat relating to this VC. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm familiar with Bo Branson's response to like LPT with like counting by division or something, and I don't really know if I understand it that well.
Oh, Bo Branson doesn't necessarily. He clarifies in the stream actually, so it should be okay. This is the one that I did with him 2 days ago. So.
Oh, okay. Like, well,
Yeah,
how does he solve it?
I would rather. Hold on. Give me a second. How does he solve? Oh, because what he does is he argues for a different understanding of number, essentially. And so both of these guys just sort of look into Aristotelian ideas of number and quantity.
Okay. Like, what is that about?
So it'd be. So for him, the idea of like counting by division comes from the Aristotle's idea of transcendentals and then accidents. So you have this accident known as quantity that would be different from the transcendental of like unity or like the number one itself. And so for him, when we usually count things, especially in the ancient world until very, very, very recently, for him, it is that we were usually counting by division.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's what he says.
Yeah. And so he gave, obviously, like, this is a classic example of like, sorry, I'm being so fast. I am doing, it's fine. It gives you an example of like a piece of paper. You kind of cut it into it and boom, haha, 2 pieces of paper. So you count 2 pieces of paper in that sense. And so he tries to sort of adopt Greg Goodness's idea of, Greg Goodness's understanding of number here. So because God in himself wouldn't have like accidents, he wouldn't have quantity in this sense. So you would not be able to count by identity. You would be able to count by, for example, the distinction of different things. So the distinction of the persons would be counted as 3 in this instance. But that wouldn't result in 3 different essences for him. His definition of essence is sort of different.
Well, on a lot of views of essence, you'd get 3 or 4 essences, at least in the way that I'm understanding essence.
I think for him, like, essence wouldn't be divided, although there is a plurality of things that possess those essences. The essences themselves wouldn't be divided into another one of those things.
Wait, like, how does he define essence?
He defines essence as a thing that contains activities or a thing that grounds activities. But that's because of his wider metaphysical commitment to the essence energies distinction. He doesn't really define.
Do you hold to that?
Do I hold to that?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but I'm just explaining like what he says on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't know whether you could find the things that I sent, but those things are there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the sort of like the first 30 minutes are just those 2 people explaining their views. Chris does like explains his view elsewhere.
Yeah, I should watch this. Yeah, I'll watch it later.
Hey, nice. Wait, what do you mean you watched it?
No, I said I should watch it. Like, I'm gonna watch it later.
Oh no, it's
do you know Danny in Detroit?
Danny in Detroit?
Yeah, I read their like Google Slides thing, or sorry, Google Docs on the Trinity.
I don't know who Danny in Detroit is.
Really?
No.
They're like so smart. They're,
I know
like,
what
really
Danny. I know what Danny Phil talk.
Yeah,
but I don't know what Danny. Oh yeah. So me and him are okay-ish. I wouldn't say like we're friends because he has a different criteria for friends, as do I. But we're pretty amicable. There was this like 10-page PDF that they made, which, by the way, I don't even think it's really them. Like, they didn't spend that much time on it. I think it was just like they sort of saw certain things, sort of slapsticked some stuff together, and then cooked. You know, like this is not representative of the way that they view the LPT. I feel like it might be a
I
bit
thought that's how he ran it
disingenuous.
on Inspiring Philosophy, like the counting
Nah,
thing.
he sort of just said that Inspiring IP had like a different counting.
Yeah.
Sorry, he was trying to argue, like he wanted to ask like what counting method IP had, and then IP confused something for like a counting method, and then like everything sort of like broke loose from there. Somehow I got involved, and I was not involved whatsoever. I was just like streaming, and then I was doing like some stuff on the incarnation, as I was weird. Anyways, yeah, so the PDF somehow made its way to me. I responded to the PDF, so I gave Chris the PDF, and we basically just had a stream on it, which was really nice. And then they kind of went back and forth in the comment section of my video, which is not the stream that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a different stream.
Okay.
And so in this stream, what happened, did I say I believe? Sorry. This is the responding to the LPT part 2, which was just the way of me like introducing people to Chris's content, which was nice. And there was a guy called Friction, which
Yeah, that's the chore.
yeah, so Friction was like, I'm stupid. And I'm like, makes sense. As in like, obviously they're gonna say that, right? And I'm completely
But you are,
okay
or he
with it.
is,
It's
or...
like, no, I am. And it's like,
I don't know. Deshore is like usually
it's
nice. I don't know.
I'm pretty much like, I think it's because like when I stream, what I do is I try not to come off as like I'm smarter or something like that. I sort of try to play like the lowest common denominator and ask questions to help everyone else understand in stream, sort of thing. Because a lot of the time when you have these like not heavy but deeply insightful philosophical conversations, a lot of people get lost because they don't know how to keep with the stuff, which is like half of the VC probably left by now. I actually don't know if half the VC left.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, there you go.
So it looks like you appealed to what he calls opaque context, and I just kind of like, oh well, I came like ready for that because like I was gonna run trinity critiques, so I just like I read over all of that like a couple weeks ago.
Yes, good. So, for example, people like Frege and Church started to build like a idea of how to do intentional logics, but it's really hard because there's not really a set definition. There's a usage, like the usage that you supplied was the one that we used to give in like the 80s, but what we are looking for now is more so just like, because most of the philosophy that we've done up to this point is Aristotelian, and then we sort of just changed when we changed our idea of what existence meant. Because now we think of existence as like a property of a property, you know?
I don't know about that.
So
Existence
when we
is
say
a
there is
property?
a property of a property, so you say there is an X such that X exists.
Yeah, you're talking about like existential propositions or something?
No, as in... what do you mean by an existential proposition?
Like a proposition saying like there is some X such that X exists or something?
Yes, that specifically. Sorry, I thought you were referring to something else. Because like we can say like existential propositions for like in Thomism or in Palimism, for example, it's something different. My apologies. I didn't know that you were just referring to like basically. So yeah, so in the comment section, Friction responds to the thing, and then Chris actually responds to the thing as well. And Chris's final response is basically saying, here he says, with your first reply, make sure you distinguish between the seeming that there isn't an intentional context present and it's not seeming to you that there's an intentional context present. The first claim is much stronger and so requires more justification. And yes, those who do not already accept or assume for internal critique the doctrine of the Trinity will most likely accept the first reply, but my paper isn't for them, and I don't expect anything I say in the paper to convince them. The paper is for people who already accept or assume for internal critique the doctrine of the Trinity and are, given the truth of the Trinitarian doctrine, interested in how the LPT could be solved. With the second reply, the claim that the Father is God is for F is G and does not mean GF. It's just a requirement of divine simplicity. When examining Trinitarian doctrines, theologians aren't interested in what people think something means or the meaning in people's heads. they're interested in what the sentences actually mean, even if people misunderstand the phrases they're saying.
Where is this? Let me see if I can.
This is the comment section. This is the comment section to the response to the LPT video. Friction then gives 2 later replies that Chris can't get back to because obviously
part
he's
1 or
like
2?
swamped with work. Part 2.
Okay, let's take a look.
Part 1 was just doing the whole opaque context thing. Bo sort of pushes back on the whole opaque context thing as well in the recent stream. So if you want to like watch all of that, great.
By the way, I think like Friction's like one of the strongest atheist debaters. I don't want to say debater, but like one of the strongest atheist thinkers that I've like.
I want to know who he is. I'm sort of like the first time, I guess, interacting with him or him interacting with me. So I sort of just like, oh, that's great.
Hello, SIIG.
Hey.
Do you know Dr. Blitz?
No, I do not.
Wait, Rose, were you trying to debate SIIG on the Trinity?
Wait, no. Do you know Parker?
No. Oh,
Off of TikTok.
you mean the guy? I guess I do know the guy on TikTok.
Well, I did see you. I did see you commenting when Dr. Blitz is live.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of. Yeah, because I think there was an issue, like, there was a theist that sort of, like, rose and he was, like, misunderstanding what validity meant. So I just wanted to help the theist out to, like, say, hey, man, this is what validity means, ha, 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 and then, yeah, just sort of...
Okay, but do you watch Dr. Blitz?
No, not particularly.
What do you do on TikTok?
Kind of...
Oh, that was interesting.